O my soul, in freedom. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Nothing on earth can.
Good evening, dear ones. Jai Guru to all. Welcome to today's class on Jesus Christ, His life and His teachings. As always, let us center ourselves, integrate ourselves, still ourselves, and invoke the presence of the Divine in our body, mind, heart, and soul. Let us pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Bhagwan Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, beloved Gurudev Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, friend and guide Swami Kriyananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, humbly we bow and touch thy feet. O Lord, make my heart big enough to hold thee, that it throb with the Christ consciousness in everything. Then shall I enjoy the festivity of thy birth in my mind, my soul, and in oneness with every pulsing atom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us now invoke the presence of the Gurus by singing the hymn to Brahma. Let's sing to Yogananda, the one who has brought for us the teachings of the Gita and teachings of the Bible, and has brought for us the grace of God, that our minds and hearts be opened and we may rise above delusion into the truth of oneness. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Shri Let us visualize the Guru at the spiritual eye. Visualize that he is smiling upon you, that the light of his being is falling on you. Mentally thank him for his love, his compassion for us, his divine friendship, and all the sacred teachings, the key of Kriya Yoga that he has bestowed upon us. We bow at the feet of our Master for all these blessings. Now let us read a few thoughts on generosity by Swami Kriyananda. Most people think of generosity as merely the giving of material benefits to others. More important, however, and much more satisfying is a generous spirit, a willingness to let the other person shine, even if it means being eclipsed oneself. A happiness in his good fortune, even if it means personal loss for oneself. A concern for his safety, even if in an accident one's own property has been destroyed. Generosity means, above all, recognizing that everything we have and are belongs to God alone and is his to dispose of where he will. Let us do the following affirmation a few times. I am happy in the good fortune of all, even more than in my own. For in my happiness for them lies inner freedom. I am happy in the good fortune of all, even more than in my own. For in happiness for them lies inner freedom. So even if you feel at the moment that I'm not so happy when others are happy, but affirm this, that I want to be happy when I see others happy. I shall be happy when I see others happy, because their happiness is my happiness. So with that thought, let's do this affirmation once more. I am happy in the good fortune of all, even more than in my own. For in my happiness for them lies inner freedom. Let us follow this prayer. All that I have and am is thine. Divine Mother, dispose of it as thou wilt. Peace. Amen. Okay. So friends, coming to the story section of today, and this is a wonderful story. It is based on the theme that it beholds is faith, and it has been narrated by our great Guru, Paramhansa Yogananda. The title of the story is Two Blind Men Who Sought Riches. Akbar the Great was one of the greatest kings of India. He was called guardian of mankind because of the benevolence of his rule and the devoted zeal with which he sought to regain lost sections of the once vast empire. This charitable king showered good on needy individuals and social groups everywhere. One day, as the king's procession passed along the boulevard, he saw two blind men sitting about 20 yards apart, shouting for alms. The king stopped his carriage to investigate. The first blind man was shouting, "To whom the king gives, he alone becomes rich." The second blind man was shouting, "To whom God gives, he alone becomes rich." Whenever his procession drove along the boulevard, he heard these demands for riches from himself and from God. At last, one day, the king, feeling flattered by the first blind man's utterance, that to whom the king gives, he alone becomes rich, ordered a large loaf of bread to be baked with the inside filled with solid gold. The king gave this loaf to the first blind man, and completely ignored the second blind man, who believed that God alone could make him rich. After being away on a hunting trip for several weeks, the king again passed along the boulevard and came to the first blind man to whom he had given the loaf. The man was still shouting, "To whom the king gives, he alone becomes rich." The king asked, What did you do with the loaf I gave you?" The blind man replied, "Your Royal Highness, the loaf you gave me was too large and too heavy. I'm afraid it was not well baked. So I sold it to the other blind man for 10 cents. I was happy to receive those 10 cents. The second blind man was no longer on the street. Upon inquiry, Akbar discovered that the second blind man had given the loaf to his wife, who had opened it and found the gold. With this, she bought a home. Upon learning this, the king, with inner humility but with outward wrath, rebuked the first blind man, saying, "You fool, you gave away my gold-stuffed loaf to your friend who depended upon God and not upon me for the wealth. From now on, you must change your motto and shout like your friend, to whom God gives, he alone becomes rich." And then, as always, Master ends with a wisdom gem. He says, "Millions of people today think that all wealth comes from banks, factories, jobs, and through personal ability. This Great Depression," so this is a story he was saying when it was the Depression time in the US. So he says, "This Great Depression has proven that America is the most prosperous, starving nation on the face of the globe. When the wealthiest country on earth, without any national catastrophe, can be suddenly thrown into poverty, it proves that there are divine laws that govern our physical, mental, spiritual, and financial lives. Every day, as you try to become better and happier, strive also to help others to become better and happier. Learn to include the happiness and welfare of others in your own happiness. The happiness of the individual, the family members, and the nation depends entirely upon the law of mutual cooperation, unselfishness, and living up to this motto. Father, bless us that we may remember Thee always, and let us not forget that all things flow from Thee." Om, Om, Om. Such a beautiful story by Master. Okay, so now we come to the New Testament, and today we are going to be talking about a very important part of the Testament. It's called the Sermon on the Mount, and this part Master has divided into 4 sections. And today, in the first section of Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is going to give the Beatitudes to the people. So it is till now what we did in this, read in the story, was how so many miracles were happening, healed, the sick were being healed, the evil spirits were being pushed out of the embodied of persons, of sick individuals. And then his popularity is spreading amongst the Jews and even the Gentiles. So Gentiles is a section of population who were not Jewish. And in the time of the Jews, they were supposed to be a relatively lower caste, and because they're not so much believing in God, or they do not follow the rituals of the Jews, for whatever list of reasons, Gentiles were supposed to be lower than the Jews. So anyway, his now popularity is spreading everywhere. Thousands, wherever, in whichever village he goes, thousands start to follow him, and he has his disciples also with him. And slowly, he asks his disciples to organize the crowds and help him deliver the sermon. So let's remember, there were no mics at that time, and thousands of people listening to him in that quietness, because they were hungry for the new teaching that Christ had brought. So he had brought, of course, the teaching is that there is one God. The teaching is that God is love. But since people were so involved in the laws and rules of social living that they had forgotten the love and the mercy and the compassion of the living, ever-present God. And that's the message where Jesus came with. And when whatever he said with so much authority that people said that, yes, it's not like a reading in the synagogue where the priest will just read from the Torah and he'll be just a blind reading and everybody's getting bored and yawning and They're just there so that God does not punish them for not being good Jews. But when Jesus speaks, he speaks from the heart and soul. He speaks from a level of authority, and they do feel a higher presence through that body of Jesus. So now we begin with the Beatitudes. We are following right now the Gospel of Matthew. So Master has chosen the Gospels according to what he knew that the students would need. So first we did the Gospel of John for the first 4 chapters. And now we are following the Gospels of Matthew, Luke, and Mark. So in that Gospel, Master says, the Gospel says, and seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. So he knew that thousands are following him. So naturally, he wanted to be at a vantage point of a little high hill so that all the throngs of people could watch him and could feel his presence. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So let's hold on to these beatitudes, these statements. So what Master says is that these lyrical verses that Jesus began by saying, blessed are so and so, all of these are called beatitudes. So together there are more than, I think there are 11 or 12 beatitudes, but together on the mount on this particular day when he speaks, he spoke of 8 main beatitudes, which we are going to study today. To beatify is to make us supremely happy. Beatitude signifies the blessedness and the bliss of heaven. Jesus here sets forth with power and simplicity a doctrine of moral and spiritual principles that has echoes undiminished down the ages. So what his master is saying, that what was true 2000 years ago, these statements are as true even now. These are tenets by which man's life becomes blessed, filled with heavenly bliss. The word poor used in the first beatitude. So I'll read the first beatitude again. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So here we must understand what is the meaning of poor in spirit. The word poor used in the first beatitude signifies a wanting in any outer superficial elegance of wealth. So basically, those who are poor in spirit, why will they be blessed with the kingdom of heaven? So poor in spirit here means when you are poorly enthusiastic about the things of this world, about the situations of this world, and about the outer world. So your enthusiasm, so when we meet a person who's very, very enthusiastic about things, is hopping here and there and can do a lot of external things, we sometimes in a general term, we tend to say, oh, he is high in spirit, isn't it? So although the word spirit with a capital S means the essence of things, means the Par Brahma, but here he's using the small s spirit, which means the general enthusiasm a person has to do outward things and or desires attachment towards the outward world. So whoever has less of those, whoever is poor in desires and attachments towards this world, whoever is humble in himself, whoever is relaxed in himself, that is what poor in spirit is mentioned, understood here in this. To be poor in spirit is to have divested one's inner being of desire for and attachment to material objects, earthly possessions, materially minded friends, and selfish human love. So let's check, have we gone within? Have we divested ourselves? Means we were very much invested in all of these things, material objects, we have earthly possessions, we have materially minded friends, and of course, selfish human love. We were very much invested in this. But let us check that, have we divested now? Have we detached ourselves from these things that Master is mentioning here according to the gospel? So if we have divested, so that means our spirit of enthusiasm for worldly life, for worldly things has reduced, and therefore we are now moving in the direction where we will be blessed by the kingdom of heaven. Through this purification of inward renunciation. So Master mentions inward renunciation because you're going to have certain possessions. There are going to be people and relatives around you and responsibilities around you. But have you turned inside? That is the question. Is your focus more on the inner presence of the divine rather than, yes, there are present outward, many things are still happening in the world. But so where is your attention? You have to ask yourself that. The soul finds that it has ever possessed all riches of eternal kingdom of this bliss and wisdom, and thenceforth dwells therein constant communion with God and his saints. Now, poverty in spirit, Master clarifies further, does not imply that one should necessarily be a pauper. So you don't have to be materially a pauper or a poor person, a below poverty line person to actually, don't have to be deprived by basic necessities to say that, okay, now I am poor in spirit and now I must be blessed with the kingdom of heaven. No, that is not the case. It certainly means that one should not settle for material acquisitions instead of spiritual opulence. So what are we aiming at? Again, we will have the kingdom. Now, there can be two kinds of kingdom. One is the earthly kingdom, like many kings can be there. You can be a Raja of your local community or your state or your nation or whatever. Or else you can be the king of your own soul. And the king of your own soul would mean the king of spirit, means that you are omnipresent, you are like God's child. So you have to decide which kingdom you want. Jesus commended those souls who are poor in spirit, that is wholly non-attached to personal worldly goals and fortune, in deference to seeking God and serving others. Ye are blessed for your poverty. It will open the gates to the kingdom of all-sufficient God, who will relieve you from material as well as spiritual want through eternity. Blessed are you who are in want and seek him who alone can relieve your deficiencies forever. So very interestingly, this thought is coming to me in the Granth Sahib or in Sikhism. When we refer to God, we say Sache Badshah. Sache Badshah, this is generally, so it's a true king. Who is the true king of this universe? He's the Lord himself, our creator, our maker, our master, our father, mother, friend, and beloved. So that is the true king. So which king are you following? And which kingdom you want is again your decision. When the spirit of man mentally renounces desire for objects of this world, knowing them to be illusory, perishable, misleading, and unbecoming to the soul, he begins to find true joy. So, simple answer to the question, why should I renounce desire? Why should I not have or want the things of this world? Why? Because they are illusory, they are perishable, they are misleading, and they are unbecoming of the soul. So they are taking you away from the truth of God into the illusion of the world, because they are illusory, they are false. Therefore, you should not invest your time, energy, anything, any love of the heart into this world. It is never going to give you happiness. In humbly leading a life of outer simplicity and inner renunciation, steeped in the soul's heavenly bliss and wisdom, the devotee ultimately inherits the lost kingdom of immortal blessedness. So this is what it means when he says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now the second beatitude. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. So let's understand this. Jesus here is actually talking of a divine melancholy. So why will I mourn? If I have the things of the world, if I don't have the things of the world, should I mourn because of that? Or should I mourn and be sad in my heart that I am unable to feel the connection with the divine, with the Sache Badshah, with the true king? What should make me sad? Why am I mourning in this life? Again, even if I am sad, what is the cause of my sadness and melancholy? So this is what Master says. Jesus was speaking of that divine melancholy resulting from the awakening consciousness of separation from God, which creates in the soul an insatiable yearning to be reunited with the eternal beloved. Now, thankfully, the fact that all of us are here together means we yearn for the truth, and which is so beautiful, which means that we are already in this category, what Jesus is saying, that Whoever mourns, we mourn in our hearts, we are seeking, we are yearning, we just want to be one with the infinite, we want to experience that blessedness. And in a sense, we are mourning that we are unable to feel that completeness that awaits us within ourselves. So yes, so if we are mourning that way, then we shall be comforted, means Jesus will come, means we will get a sign from God and the gurus that we are moving in the right direction. Those who really mourn for God, who wail incessantly for him with ever-increasing zeal in meditation, shall find comfort in the revelation of wisdom bliss sent to them by God. So whoever, because they are seeking the truth and they are missing the divine, whoever sits in meditation and regularly and sincerely with a loving heart does his meditation and prays to the Lord, he will receive the answer. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Sri Yukteswarji says that the first signs in meditation, of course, one is peace, but there are two signs that you will know that you are communing with God. One is your increasing bliss of your inner soul, and the other is the wisdom guidance that you start to receive in and after your meditation. So you know that if you put a question to God, so sooner or later, whether in that meditation or in the coming days, the answer comes to you. And this wisdom intuition has ignited up because you have started to make that connect with the infinite source of wisdom. So these are signs which tell us that yes, it affirms that we can, there is one beautiful, wonderful, omnipresent God who is in us, who can be communed with, and who will be personally also responding to us. That adds to the love of the relationship. If God was just impersonal, okay, we would say, oh, he's great, yes, he's running the universe, wonderful, that's wonderful, but what have I to do with that? Unless I have that personal love with God, unless I say, God, I miss you, I love you, I want you, I need you, you are all that I want, that is the feeling that develops, that one love with the only love that is true. And Yogananda has beautifully talked of God's love. He says that the love of God is greater than the combined love of all lovers who have ever loved. Now, I mean, this is such an exponential thing. If you think about it, it is more than the love of all lovers that have ever loved. So that is the love of God. And we mourn for that. We want to, even if we are joyfully asking for God's love, but he knows in our hearts, we just cry for him sometimes. And Anand Mohima once used to say to her devotees, she used to say, you should weep tears of God, of love for God. And if you're unable to weep tears of love for God, then you should be in the company of people who can weep tears for the love of God. So on the one hand, there is this entire jnana of the universe where you say, oh, God and I is one. I am Par Brahm, I am everything, I am omniscient. So that is one, it is one philosophy which will make you one with infinite, yes, because all these paths are scientific and take you there. But without the bhakti, without the love, how will my present be made full? So yes, Gyan will tell me I am one with God, but the essence of love is what makes everything worthwhile. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is so beautiful that the path itself and is merges with the goal itself. So on other parts of yoga, it's like you do certain things and then you reach a goal. But when you talk of bhakti, then the first step itself, it starts with love and it ends with love. Therefore, so important to have the love of God in our hearts. Okay. Those whose spiritual mourning is appeased by material fulfillments will find themselves grieving again when those fragile securities are snatched away by life and death. But those who weep for truth and God, refusing to be quieted by any lesser offering, will forever be comforted in the arms of blissful divinity. So again, a choice for us. Which kingdom are we looking for? So the second beatitude is, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Okay, now the third beatitude. Jesus goes on to say, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. What does this mean? humbleness and meekness. So it's like being settled in yourself. Again, it's not like when you're reaching out into the world and I want this, I am this great fellow, and my ego is so big that I'm like that huge wave in the ocean, and then what happens to that huge wave? It has to crash down, and then all the pain of all the pleasure of being an egoic person has to go on with the pain also of being in an ego. So if you are humble and meek, that means in a sense you are settled in your own center. You do not seek to be pleasing in the opinions of others, but you are rested in yourself. Master said this kind of attitude, humbleness and meekness, will create a bottomless receptacle of recipiency to hold the truth. So unless your heart is empty of the ego, how will you fill it with God? Now, there is a very interesting Zen story. So there is a Zen master, and a disciple goes to the Zen master. He's looking, he's yearning for truth. He visits many masters. He does not like them. He doesn't feel that they have the, they have the authority to teach him. But then once he reaches a very, very famous Zen philosopher and teacher, and he wants the Zen teacher to accept him as his disciple. So the Zen teacher says, okay, let's think about it. But in the meantime, let's have a cup of tea. So the master brings tea, he brings 2 cups, and he pours the tea for the disciple. The cup gets filled, and the master continues to talk to this person, but he keeps on pouring tea until it's spilling more and more. So the person suddenly points out, hey, master, why are you filling this cup? It is already full. That he says, the master says, yes, that is what I want to tell you. Your cup is already full with your own I-ness and your own opinions and your own little knowledge. How am I going to fill it more? Your cup is very little and it's already full. So again, we need to check our heart. Do we think, our life is nice? We have made a nice life for myself. I'm good. I'm well educated, well employed. I earn well. I have servants working for me. I have colleagues and juniors working for me. My life is set. So that means you're just holding on to that little cup, which you think is full, and no more knowledge can be poured into it. No more wisdom can come. No more bliss can come. No more unconditional love can come. Therefore, empty yourself. Empty yourself through humbleness and meekness. Empty yourself through forgiveness of others. Empty yourself with the recognition that all are equally children of God and all are equally seeking the same truth, love, and joy that you are seeking. And once you are able to do that, then God, the gurus, they can fill your heart with their love, which is infinite. A proud individual, like the proverbial rolling stone, rolls down the hill of ignorance and gathers no moss of wisdom, while meek souls, at peace in the valley of eager mental readiness, gather waters of wisdom flowing from sources human and divine, to nourish their flowering veil of soul qualities. The impervious egotist is easily riled, he is defensive, he is resentfully offensive, he repels the emissaries of wisdom who seek entry into his castle of life. But the meek and humbly receptive attract unseen assistance of beneficent angels of cosmic forces, giving material, mental, and spiritual well-being. Thus, do the meek of spirit inherit not only all wisdom, but the earth, that is earthly happiness, along with it. So interestingly, the virtue of humbleness and meekness to some extent goes with the virtue of contentment. So that means if these people are not seeking out the opinion and the praise and the material ambitions, or as others are, that means they are contented in themselves. They are happy with where God has placed them. They are happy with what they have. And from that level of contentment, now they are turning to a higher source of wisdom, a higher source of bliss and love towards the kingdom of heaven. And thus their cups will be filled by the Lord, and they shall inherit the earth. Means they will, or any person who is contented. So when we read the yamas and niyamas, contentment is one of the most important niyamas. And it is said that the perfection in the practice of the niyama of contentment is that you feel joy in every atom of creation. And that's what is being said here, that you will inherit the earth. If you are meek, if you are humble, if you're contented, then you will feel the joy of being, not only being on earth, and of course, of realizing of your own divine nature, which is bliss itself. So again, these virtues are being pointed out again and again. So it is for us again, are we humble or are we egotistic? Are we just wanting to take credit? Something good happens in the office and I am just going to rush forward and say, oh, it was part of my thought. I thought like this. It was my idea. It was my suggestion. It was my energy. It was my guidance. I was the team leader, and so on and so forth. Or you can just, as we said in generosity today in the affirmation, we allow others to take the stage. Be happy with the backstage sometimes. Be happy with sitting aside and watching others gain their glory. Why? Because others are part of your extended self. And seeing others as children of God and being happy in their happiness is again sign of contentment, sign of humility, and sign of meekness. And that will grant you the joy which is not obtainable otherwise. Okay. So now we come to the fourth beatitude. Jesus says, blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. The words thirst and hunger provide an apt metaphor for man's spiritual quest. So are we thirsting for the truth? Are we hungry for the truth? And we were talking about the Last Supper in our last class, where he breaks bread with all the disciples finally. And he says, whoever will eat my flesh and drink my blood is going to be eternally fulfilled. So here again, thirst and hunger have come. So is it the hunger of the body of Jesus? No, it is the hunger for the Christ consciousness, the ever living, pulsing intelligence, which is present in all creation, which is present in you and around you. But why do we not feel it if it is so much present there and if it is tangible? Because we have restless minds, we have restless emotions. So when we say restless mind, means we're talking of man, buddhi, ahankar, chitta, means all of it. That means my emotions are there, my mind is always thinking, the sense of ahankara means I-ness is also there. And all of that is making that one, khichdi is being made, and that khichdi is covering my soul strength, it is covering who I am really. And once I'm able to remove that, then only, so when I have to have the thirst and hunger of knowing the truth, or wanting the truth, of having acknowledged that in my own little self, in my individual ego, it doesn't give me happiness, it doesn't give me fulfillment, it doesn't give me any satisfaction. It does give me little earthly happiness to a point, but then it's a dead end. That it is inevitably that pleasure that I get in the world turns into pain. So that recognition is again, all of us present here have recognized that to a point, that worldly happiness is befooling. Actually, it's so liquid, it doesn't settle, it just flows like the sand through the fingers, it just goes away and you cannot hold on to it. And therefore we must, if we don't thirst and hunger for spirit now, we must do that. Okay, one must first have the thirst for the theoretical knowledge of how to attain salvation. After he quenches his thirst by learning the practical technique of contacting God, he can then satisfy his inner hunger for truth by feasting daily on the divine manna of spiritual perception resulting from meditation. So the thirst is, first you have to know, want to know. Second, now you have known theoretically, now practice. Do your meditation daily, only then you will be able to taste. And once you are able to taste, only then your hunger will be quenched. Once your hunger is quenched a little bit, then you get more and more addicted to meditative bliss, and more. That's what Master and God want, actually. They want us to just dive deep into the ocean of spirit. Why do they want us? Because we are their children. They want ultimate infinite bliss for us. The more we are in the world, running over the waves and not deep down in the ocean of bliss, the more buffeted by sorrows and pains of this life we are going to be. And the master has come to rescue us from those waves. He says, cross over the ocean of delusion, come to me in the depths of your own soul. Sense pleasures, master says, are of the body and lower mind. They bring no nourishment to the inmost being of man. So, this we have always experienced. Even if we are having very good food in the finest of places, in the best of ambience, our heart, that doesn't fill our heart. Our heart has a different requirement. Our soul has a different requirement. And that is that hunger thirst. So even if you have filled your stomach with very good quality food, even then there's still hunger and thirst. Spiritual starvation suffered by all who would subsist on sense offerings is allayed only by righteousness. So till your outward behavior in the first sense is turned from unrighteousness to righteousness, from adharma to dharma. So again, what is the first point of going towards this? Is that you practice your yamas and niyamas. And practicing yamas and niyamas means you are turning your attitude and your work and your thought from adharma to dharma. And in the last class, we discussed about the equation that how, when you are acting righteously, that means you are dharmic, the result of that is an accumulation of punya. And the result of accumulation of punya is blessedness, is happiness. On the other hand, if your actions, if your words, if your intentions, all of that, if that is adharmic. So if you accumulate that, then you collect a lot of pap. And what is the result of collecting a lot of pap? That is unhappiness, that is sorrow. So this is a mathematical equation that keeps running in the universe. And if you hunger and thirst for truth, as it is said in this beatitude, then automatically that hunger and thirst for truth makes you righteous. You automatically start to walk in harmony with the universal dharmic plan. And what is dharma? Dharma is that which sustains the entire universe. Without the righteousness, the upholding the righteousness of this world cannot stay stable. So if God is right, all righteous, and of course beyond all righteousness, he expects his children to also work in favor of righteousness. So again, checking ourselves, is our action, is our intention, is our speech, is it dharmic, is it righteous, or is it going against God? Is it taking me towards selfishness, towards narrowness, towards littleness, or am I being very, very expansive in my consciousness? Righteousness, master explains further. He says it means acting rightly in the physical, mental, and spiritual departments of life. Persons who feel a great thirst and hunger for fulfilling the supreme duties of life receive ever new bliss of God, which is an unparalleled satisfaction of heart and soul. So here actually all levels of dharma are included. You are born into this world, into a human body, you have dharma towards your body. You have a mind, you have dharma towards your own mind. You have to fill your stomach, that is also your dharma. You have people around you who are dependent on you, so socially you have to fulfill your dharma. But remembering all the time that my highest dharma is to God, because God is my creator. God has created all this drama, and all the other dharmas are directly dependent on him. So am I in the excuse of saying that I have to fulfill all my righteous earthly duties? Am I forgetting my real duty of going back to the infinite, or of fulfilling my own heart with the truth? So that cannot have a second place in the devotee's life. The first place is the highest dharma of communing with God. And Master has explained, and Swamiji has explained multiple times, that according to Hindu law, according to how to leave one duty, how do you know which duty is higher? So it says whenever there is a higher duty, then the lower duty ceases to exist automatically. So you may have two things to do at one time. So you may have this meditative duty, which is towards yourself, and you have some official duty of extra work, which you can, if you want, you can avoid. So what do you choose at that time? If you choose God's duty, that means communing with him, automatically your lesser responsibilities are taken care of. So in the Bhagavad Gita, I think chapter 9, Krishna talks about that whoever is completely devoted to me, I take care of him. Yoga shema vimamyaham, I think that is the word. So what does that mean? That means yoga shema means what you have, God protects that. And what you don't have, God helps you to get that. So if you are completely going towards God, then he takes care of all the other responsibilities. So, but our duty is yet again, we do all our duties, and at all levels we turn towards righteousness. Because what will happen if we turn towards righteousness is the fulfillment of this fourth beatitude, where he says, blessed are they which hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Okay. Coming to the fifth beatitude. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. This is very clear in itself. Our Father in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Do not bring us to the test, deliver us from evil. Amen. So this is the Lord's daily prayer, in which he wants us that we ask for forgiveness and we give forgiveness to others. Because when we forgive others, we open up that door through which God can forgive us also. And we have, we don't know how many trespasses we have done, intentionally, unintentionally, sometimes thinking, oh, nobody's watching. And sometimes thinking that, oh, even if God is watching, baad mein jab hisab hoga tab dekh lenge. We'll see what happens. So sometimes we have all these different grades of attitudes. But this is the truth. We have to be merciful to others so that God's mercy and forgiveness can forever continuously come to us. Mercy, Master says, is sort of a fatherly heartache for the deficiency in an erring child. It is an intrinsic quality of divine nature. So just like when you, as a parent, you see that your child is making a mistake, and your heart aches. You don't want to punish the child, but you do punish because you want him eventually to go towards eternal blessedness. You want him to go towards righteousness because that is what is going to give him happiness. So same is the situation. Why does God, it feels sometimes that he is punishing us. It's his heart is aching, Master says. His heart aches as a father heart's ache for deficiency in an erring child. He wants us to be perfect, just like him. With the patient heart of God, Jesus looked upon humanity as little children who did not understand. If a wee child picks up a knife and strikes you, you do not want to kill the child in retaliation, because we know that the child has not done that purposely. So you can easily forgive a child, even if he picks up a gun and he points at you. He doesn't know the consequences of it. Similarly, when we make mistakes on this earth, and our Father in heaven is watching, is always watching. So he will not hold us responsible for every little thing that we have done, but he will watch our heart. Does our heart, when we hold a gun to somebody else, a metaphorically way, does our heart actually want harm to others? Or is my heart free from all harm? And maybe just for the outer display of things, I am playing with life and playing with others. So at every point, the feeling in the heart is important, that humility, that meekness, that non-violence to others, and seeking that truthfulness. If that is there, then little things, superficial things don't matter at all. So God is always watching our hearts, and he is merciful. When one looks upon humanity as a loving father, looks after his children, and is ready to suffer for them, then they might receive a little of the sunshine and power of his spirit. Then one becomes Christ-like, that is God in action. Interestingly, the word mercy, I was just trying to understand this word. So one word is shama, or forgiveness. Then what is mercy? Is it different from forgiveness? So yes, so there is an addition. Mercy means forgiveness, of course, plus an actual spiritual help in eliminating the error of an individual. So not only does God forgive our sins, but he sends an active help so that we can correct those faults in the future. that we may not make the same mistakes, that we may not fall down in the same low pits of energy where we are. So God not only forgives our trespasses, he helps us to elevate ourselves. And that he does through the presence of the Guru in our life. So we are always grateful that the Guru has come to us in this life. And of course, he was with us with many lifetimes. He will stand by us. Now that is true mercy. He will stand by us even when our thoughts sometimes go haywire, even if our actions are sometimes scattered, even if our emotions sometimes go right and left and all around. Even then, God has sent us the Guru who will stand by us till we find complete perfection in ourselves. So again, thank you, God and Guru. Okay. Jesus's words exhort the devotee. So what is Jesus trying to tell us? He says, to receive divine mercy, be merciful to yourself by making yourself spiritually qualified, and be merciful to other deluded children of God. So doing the right things, doing spiritual things, is you are being merciful to yourself. You're doing SOS, save our soul. When we say save our soul, when you do the right thing, when you are being merciful to others and you're being merciful to yourself, then you are saving your own soul. So that is also important. So it's not that I become proud that I am this great person who can forgive anything and everybody, and it's all right, I don't care. And this is not that attitude that is being talked about. So just allow that loving grace to flow through you to everybody. And just as you can forgive your own child for having made a mistake at home, can you with the same ease forgive the child of your neighbor? Check it in yourself. If my neighbor's son has made a mistake, I will scold him. But if my own son makes that same mistake, I will not scold him. Do I have this kind of discriminative attitude? We must check it in ourselves. And that is not only the children of the neighbors. The neighbor is also a child of God. My relatives are also children of God. We are all equally children of God. And if I can forgive my own mistakes just like that, then I should just like that be able to forgive the mistakes of others, because others are not separate from me. They are not different from me. It's only a delusion. They are exactly like me. And therefore, if I deserve forgiveness from myself, they deserve forgiveness from myself and from themselves, of course. And then when I can allow and let go in unconditional love, and if I can just accept them with all their superficial packet of mistakes, then God can also accept us fully into his kingdom. Are we ready to enter his kingdom? We cannot say, God, I love you very much, but I don't love this person, means I don't like your children, but I love you. It doesn't make sense, does it? So you have to love everybody equally, because they're all extensions of you yourself. And if you're not able to see themselves as extensions of yourself, at least you can see them as children of the same one God, and forgive them and love them and be friends with them. Persons who continuously develop themselves in every way and who mercifully feel and alleviate the lack of all-round development in others surely will melt the heart of God and obtain for themselves his unending and matchlessly helpful mercy. Now the sixth beatitude, and this we have heard already many times. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The consummate religious experience is direct perception of God, for which the purification of heart is a requisite. So religion is fulfilled, spirituality is fulfilled, all the path that we are walking on is fulfilled when we can consummately be merging our love with God's love, ourself in God's self. And the main obstacle to that, we said, is actually our own thinking mind, too much of restlessness in the mind. And therefore, we need to purify the mind. When the mind is purified and stilled like the water of the lake, then the reflection of spirit in that still mind will show him the same mind which has shown him the world. That same mind will reflect God back. But if the waters of our mind are always restless, whether they are little ripples or they are huge waves, then how can the mind become a mirror in which spirit can be reflected? So pure heart, actually, again, it's man, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. All of that have to be purified. My feeling heart, my thinking mind, the mind, part of the mind that is receiving the data from the senses. So my senses have also to be purified. My mind is to be clean. My intellect has to be humble. And the emotions in my heart have to be converted to single pointed devotion to Lord. And all of this together will actually make my chitta shuddhi, or purity of my consciousness, purity of the heart. And once my chitta is shuddh, it's very pure, then it becomes like that mirror which reflects spirit perfectly. So I become one with Christ consciousness, and Christ consciousness is a reflection of cosmic consciousness, and the truth is automatically revealed. So a very interesting story I'm remembering, that a person once went to a sadhu and says, why don't you give me experience of samadhi? तो साधु महाराज कहते हैं, बेटा समाधि तो तुम्हें मैं 1 मिनट में दे दूंगा. तो बहुत खुश होता है वो पर्सन कि हाँ चलो समाधि मिलेगी हमें. लेकिन कहते हैं बस एक ही मेरी कंडीशन है कि तुम ना अपना चित्त शुद्ध करके आओ. तो तब वो पर्सन समझता है कि चित्त शुद्ध करने में ही तो सारे जीवन काल हमारे लगते हैं. एक्चुअली आवर एंटायर, वी आर ऑलरेडी द आत्मन, we are already Christ consciousness, but because our chitta is not pure, it is not like that clean mirror which can reflect spirit. And all the bhakti, the gyan, the karma, the raj yoga that we do, the aim of that is to remove all those impurities. And once with all those practices the impurities have gone, then you become the mirror in which God is reflected. So that is what is actually meant. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And if we refer to Patanjali Yoga Sutras, first he says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha, means all neutralization of all vrittis. And the second verse he says, then you will know who you are. So again, he's talking about the science of it. Once you have neutralized all the vortices of movement of consciousness, then you will find your own Swarupa, means your own true self, your own Atman will be revealed to you once all of that is settled. So again, we see there is a unity amongst all scriptures. They are trying to say the same thing, just picking the thread from a different angle every time. Restoration of the lost clarity of divine sight is the purport of this beatitude. The blessedness known to the perfectly pure of heart is none other than referred to in St. John's Gospel. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. To every devotee who receives and reflects the omnipresent light divine or Christ consciousness through a purified transparency of heart and mind, God gives power to reclaim the bliss of divine sonhood, even as Jesus. Okay. So we shall end our class today on this beautiful beatitude. We've covered 6. We'll do the 2 next time. And the Sermon on the Mount will also continue. So just let's, as a revision, let's remember the important 6 we have done today. The first was, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And finally, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Dear friends, let us share the beauty, the wonder, the power, the light of these teachings with all souls everywhere. Divine Mother, beloved Lord Jesus, Thou art omnipresent, Thou art in all Thy children. Manifest Thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Rub our hands together. Lovingly send out the power of Om, healing everybody. Oh, oh, oh. Divine Mother, blessed Lord Christ, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.